Can you start a podcast with me, please? I need something to do.
Sent it out in front of Malkin to save. They score! Elias Lindholm looks to the heavens.
Here's a chance. Potter right in on goal. He scores. Oh my! What a move by the rookie.
2-on-1. Pastrnak moving in with Marchand. Get into it. Score!
The zone. Coyle dances in. Backhand. Score!
Lindholm right wing corner. Pastrnak is there. He scores! David Pastrnak wins it for Boston.
Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of Bruins Tape to Tape. I will be your host tonight, Maria from Watertown. I am joined by my fabulous co-host at Karoline with a K. Welcome in, Karoline.
Hey, Maria. How's it going? Summer is over.
Over, baby. Kids are back in school. Football season has started, which means that hockey season is inching ever so much more closely to starting. So, we got a couple of topics that we want to touch upon today, folks, in this episode. We have spent the better part of our summer episodes addressing and providing our assessment and takes on players that have been signed by Don Sweeney or retained by Don Sweeney, either in free agency or contract extension, but we haven't had an opportunity to talk about what is I don't know if I can call it a critical hire. The Bruins' newest head coach, Marco Sturm. So we want to share our thoughts and opinions. And I know I've spent a little bit of time knowing that this topic was upcoming for us, thinking about how I value a professional coach in general. And I'm talking, across the majority of sports. We'll focus on Marco here momentarily. The other topic of conversation that we will dive into today is what appears to be the Bruins' philosophy going into this season of captain by committee. Both have thoughts and opinions related to that. And we'll talk about, Bruins rookie camp and the prospects challenge. So, with that being said, I will open up the floor to you in terms of your thoughts on Coach Sturm.
Well, the first thing I want to say before we dive into him is, at least at this point, we're now at the second week of September. Today we're recording on the 8th. Rookie camp starts on Thursday, and effectively, we haven't really heard much come out of the Bruins organization yet at this point, other than they're just going straight to Buffalo. They're participating in the Prospects Challenge, which again is a mini tournament. We're expecting a number of guys that we saw back in July. I believe we'll get the roster probably the day of. That happened last season. So that's happening Thursday through Monday. And then we'll kind of see who from that group might actually get an invite to the big camp.
And there were captain's practices, which is kind of funny. We're calling them captain's practices, but we don't have a captain. And again, maybe it's just a matter of semantics, but captain's practices did take place last week, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Yep. So a lot of the usual folks were taking first practice. Not too much to report there because, again, it's so early. But we will be seeing games very, very soon. That's exciting. I can't wait because I'm dying to watch some hockey.
I think there's an overall. I don't know if we can call it excitement because if you listen to a lot of people talk and other podcasts, the bar for the Boston Bruins and the expectations aren't set very high going into this upcoming season.
Yep, exactly. So that's the only news right now in terms of players. Why don't we start by talking about this captain by
committee
And
nonsense?
this is the one that I think we have the strongest opinions on. A lot of feelings.
Listen, I mean, I'll go first.
Yeah. Please.
In a season where last season, and again, this is what we have to compare and contrast to, which was, how it didn't go well. It didn't go well from day one. It didn't end well. Maybe there was a little glimmer of hope late in the season.
Yep.
And while I understand that mantle and torches need to be passed on, I simply don't understand why you wouldn't in a season where you're calling it, rebuild, retool, whatever the hell you're calling it, and you want to forge the next core of your Boston Bruins, why you wouldn't name a clear captain. You've got a new coach. You've got a new coach who doesn't have, working relationships, familiarities with a lot of these players. And in my view, maybe I'm wrong, that part of the responsibility of the captain is to kind of be an ambassador, to bridge that relationship, all right, to help develop and foster that communication and relationship between the coach and players that, are a bit unfamiliar with each other. So, I don't know if they think it's that much, if the Bruins organization think that it's that much of a reward to be a captain, that they want to try and make it some type of a competition, so to speak.
Right.
But I don't know if I'm David Pastrnak, I'm not sure I would have a little kind of feeling about that, to be honest with you. That's just my view. I would rather know if I'm a new person on that team, right? And it's my first experience with this organization. I'm just coming into this. I want to know who the go-to guy is that I want to go talk to when I have an issue or a concern.
Yeah, I think so. I'm of two mindsets, and I'm also just going to play devil's advocate in a minute for the hell of it, because that's what we do here. From a personal perspective, when I heard the news, I certainly was a bit irritated by that. So mostly at management. It was, in my mind, one more thing that management wasn't taking action on. Like, okay, you didn't take action with, you took the wrong actions at the trade deadline. So I'm already pissed off. You didn't get rid of Don Sweeney. You didn't, maybe you did okay with what you could get in the free agency, but it wasn't particularly impressive. And it seemed worse just because, again, we were all already kind of mad. So it would have taken a really big action to make me at least less irritated in general with management. And I think it's initially, my take was, well, it feels like a cop-out that you didn't make a decision. Because for me, by the end of the season, I felt that there was a very clear person who deserved the captaincy based on his leadership on and off the ice, and that was David Pastrnak. And, we've talked about this before. back even in January of this year, I would not have said that. I would not have said that in February. I'm not sure that I would have said that through the first half of March. But a lot happened, and he did, in my mind, enough to deserve and earn that seat. Now, and so by them not giving it to him, I felt was a cop-out because, and again, this is me putting on my tinfoil hat, my opinion is that this didn't happen and it was a cop-out because Charlie McAvoy wasn't there, so
Bingo.
it maybe wasn't a quote-unquote fair fight. I'm sorry, them's the breaks. People get hurt, people get injured. It's hockey. But whatever.
But don't
Whatever.
underestimate, because, there have been innuendos. I'm not going to call them rumor or speculation, but innuendos that Don Sweeney has wanted this to be Charlie McAvoy's team. I don't know what it is, why that might be. And so I don't dismiss your thoughts about the fact that, right?
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't there. He missed a good chunk of the season.
Yeah.
Maybe they wanted to be a fair fight. I don't know. I don't understand. Life is not right. Life is not fair, right? And last I knew, these were grown ass men playing this sport, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I just wonder how much of that is,
Mm-hmm.
Sweeney-licious wanting to continue to, make his mark on this team and wanting to hand the mantle over to Charlie McAvoy as opposed to David Pastrnak. Because honestly, and I can't get past this piece of it too, because this is going to be a nagging concern in the back of my head for the rest of David Pasternak's tenure here. Yeah. How much patience do you think David will have when he's putting up over 100 points again, right? And the projected points for other players are nowhere near where his projected point. I mean, how long do you think a young man like that and an elite player like that will stand to be patient before he starts thinking about, I want to win a cup. I want to win a cup.
Exactly. It's a very valid and legit concern, now that was my tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, and my emotions driven by my anger and dissatisfaction with management. But
we laugh now. We may not be laughing in November.
We'll see. We'll ask us then. To kind of play devil's advocate, kind of the flip side of all of this is that this situation, a team starting the season without a captain by committee, is not a new phenomenon. Obviously, it is actually very common across the league when a captain leaves the team, maybe mid-season through trade or whatever. It's a respect thing that you don't immediately name a new captain, right? So that's exactly what we saw in Boston, that obviously no one was going to be named captain after Marshy left. And to some extent, there were no other alternate captains named because we saw the departure of a lot of really significant veteran leaders who often would wear the A. And it just so happened then that the team got rid of a large chunk of its leadership core. So literally, David Pastrnak was the only one left with an A because Chucky was out. So it's not unheard of to see that kind of gap, at least in the short term. We saw that even with Chara's departure in 2020. He actually left in October, and, I actually forgot about this because in my mind, there was this seamless transition from Chara to Bergeron that there was no captain for that season. So, well, in the 2019-2020 season. But we all know effectively that was Bergeron's locker room. Everyone knew it was going to be his locker room. It was an easy transition. So that one I don't actually count. But the last time the Bruins did have an entire season without a captain was in 2001 to 2002. Shockingly, it was because they had traded away their captain, Jason Allison, and he was traded to the Kings, and they just didn't have a replacement for that stretch of time. You know, they were worried about, the organization was worried about assigning a captain too quickly because of his messy exit. Does this sound familiar? And then the following year, you saw the Joe Thornton captaincy. Prior to that, it's only happened for Boston one other time in their 100-year history, and this was the largest gap. And Maria, you know, you could probably speak to a little bit of what you were seeing out on the ice and maybe why this happened, but it was actually from 1967 to 1973, arguably transitioning into one of the best, you know, eras of Bruins hockey. And it was a pretty significant rebuilding period for Boston. You know, they had the young Bobby Orr coming in, not wanting to, hypothetically, I think, put too much on him too quickly.
Correct. Correct.
That also makes sense because he was so young, right? We don't have that in this particular situation. The only thing that we have in common with that era is the fact that they were going through a rough patch and needing to do a rebuild. The common factor with the 2001 situation was probably the messy, I'm going to call it messy, even though we don't know what happened behind closed doors, but the messy exit of a captain who, I mean, I don't really remember the vibe back in 2001. I remember I was, you know, I'm old enough that I was watching, but I don't know if he was quite as beloved as Marshy, but still, messy exit, messy exit. So is it unheard of? No. Is it reasonable? Maybe.
I don't want to say it's reasonable or unreasonable. You
Yeah.
know,
I don't have to like it.
Dealing away a captain in the middle of a season, I can understand that, right? Because as an organization, you're already taking crap and heat because you traded away, you know, conceivably your captain is generally one of your better players, right? So not only have you traded away a leader, you've traded away a good player, and you've traded away someone who was beloved by fans, right? So it's a triple whammy. That I understand. But in this instance, where I can say to me is a viable and distinct difference is we have been hearing for quite some time about the new core, the new core, the new core, right? Because our previous core was, all right, it was Chara, it was Marchand, it was Krejci, it was Bergeron, and I'll even throw Rask in there, Tuukka Rask, okay?
Yep.
And then we kept hearing the future core, right?
Yep.
Which would be Pasta and
Sway.
Chucky. And now we've got Sway in there. So you know who your future core is. Now, again, typically you don't name a goalie as, you know, even an alternate captain, right? Doesn't mean that that individual can't display leadership skills. So I understand that. But you've got at least these two guys that you're moving forward with as the core of your team. I don't understand the hesitancy in naming one of them as a captain. Now, if these guys are on board with this, and again, we're not, you know,
we don't know.
I'm assuming that conversations have happened with both of these players. Or I'll even throw Sway in that mix, okay?
Right.
Because now he is part of the core.
Right.
And you've had conversations. Yeah, we're fine with this. We're good with this. Okay, great. God bless.
Right.
But you're going into a big year of transition here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if there's still some concern in the back of the minds of management about what direction are we going in here?
And it's interesting that you bring that up, because the other kind of scenario that I can kind of imagine and understand this whole situation in is, we talked a lot last season about the fact that the Bruins didn't have a true identity. Their brand name identity was defense first and trying to get back to that. Like, okay. But as a team, the team itself had no identity. And we did a lot of speculating about, well, it all really started again with training camp, and things were not going well, and the locker room was not good. And actually, other Lindholm, Hampus, wow. I haven't had to talk about him in a long time. Hampus was recently the Bruins representative for the European NHL media tour, and there was his interview with Elliot Friedman for 32 Thoughts was really interesting. And I think I don't know if he meant to share as much as he did, or if he realized what he was saying as he was sharing, but he effectively came out and was implying very heavily that there were issues in that locker room with direction and identity all the way in.
I don't think that's
part of me when I heard that, I was like,
I think we all were aware of that. Yeah.
But
I mean, we had a coach who didn't really, in essence, didn't want to be there.
Right.
And if truth be told, or we believe what we've read and heard, right, he didn't really want to be there. The organization, was unable or unwilling to commit to him. By him, I'm referring to Jim Montgomery. Maybe then he was just like, dude, I don't even want to be here. This, opportunity came up in St. Louis. It was a mutual parting of the ways. So that starts right there, right? And so I don't know. It just seemed,
hearing from a player who was in that locker room, a lot of me saying, well, duh, we know, but we didn't really know. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was very much so implied, and like, oh man, things just don't look good. So what's going on in the locker room? I mean, the number of times you said that something in that locker room stinks, that the DNA of this team is not good. And then to hear a player who, probably is also, I would say, we kind of forget about him because he was out for so much of last season. He's probably also part of that leadership core. I could see him being a member to some degree.
I agree with you. Yep.
So for someone like him to also say basically what we were all thinking, not great, but maybe the other piece is, okay, the management is saying, what kind of team can the two of you guys put together? What kind of identity can you build? What works? And then kind of go in that direction. They are starting basically almost from scratch to some extent, because there is no one left really from that Chara era. So it's their opportunity to forge a new identity. And again, I can imagine management saying, and an outsider saying, well, that's why they aren't picking a captain right now.
Captain.
But again, still doesn't mean that I have to like it.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. It's good conversation, for lack of anything else. I myself would like to know, I'm a young player, new player coming in. Who am I supposed to go and talk to? If we've got 2 or 3 guys, you're saying, this is our committee of captains. Do I need to go and have a conversation with each one of them? Do I go to one and hope that that one conveys accurately
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying
Yeah.
or what my concerns are, or that it's being brought forth accurately? So, you know, there are potential pros and cons to both. My personal preference would be I would want to know who my captain is.
Right. And it's entirely possible that if it turns out that that locker room is strong, it can work phenomenally well. You
Yeah,
know,
it
I
may.
want to
Right.
point to the New York Rangers from 2018 to 2021 did not have a captain. Again, they traded away their captain in February of 2018, and they went 4 full seasons without a captain. Instead, they had 5 players who had alternate captain letters, and they rotated, and they did phenomenally well going into the playoffs and conference final. And, but there was an established culture and a lot of really strong leaders. So who knows? This is going to be a big experiment, and we shall see what
We
works.
shall see. Maybe we'll play back the segment later in the season and say, okay, we're a couple of idiots. What do
Yeah,
we know
right?
what we're talking about?
Exactly. So Maria, give us the rundown. If we can switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Marco Sturm. So he was with the Bruins from why am I blanking? 2005 to 2010. Now, I didn't have Nesson. I wasn't living in New England, so I didn't actually get to watch him play at all. Can you kind of give us a refresher on like who he was as a player, what he brought to Boston, that kind of thing?
So Marco was always a good, hardworking player, right? And who doesn't want a good, hardworking player?
Mm-hmm.
Now, kind of unfair to him was that, he came in as part of likely one of the worst trades
Yeah.
in, I want to say in Boston sports history,
Yes.
right?
Yep. The Joe
Maybe,
Thornton
it
trade.
could be up there in the top 10 of worst trades in sports, but from a Boston sports history standpoint, definitely one of the worst trades in the history of Boston sports when you trade away, your young phenom who was your captain. You escort him out the back door of the TD Garden. You don't even have the cojones to tell the veteran players or the captains, or the leaders of that team that you're trading away John Thornton and you're bringing in, what's my favorite term that I like to use? Jags. Just another guy. Okay.
Yes.
All right, fine.
Brian Stewart, Wayne Primo.
Right. So the expectations from Marco, the bar wasn't high. The bar wasn't high. But from a culture and work ethic standpoint and just conduct as an individual was good. He was good. He was key in a couple of very memorable moments in Boston Bruins history, one of which the Bruins' first
Winter Classic
and scoring, the overtime goal that won it. And then a very, very famous goal against the Montreal Canadiens that nearly brought down the TD Garden. The sound was so thunderous and so loud. So, familiarity with him in that respect. We don't have a lot of familiarity with him from a coaching standpoint, other than what we have been told and what we have been read, because he's been in an organization, right, that's on the West Coast.
Right.
We've heard nothing but good things.
Yep.
All right, Bruins fans, if you're thinking about picking up some new gear, now's the time. I'm already planning to grab a fresh Pasternak jersey this fall. Who knows? Maybe he's rocking a new letter on the front. The NHL shop is running tons of season-ending and summer sales right now, including 20% off Fanatics gear. And here's the best part. When you shop through our link in the show notes, a portion of your purchases helps support this podcast. Same gear you'd find at the pro shop, but with way better perks. So stock up, save big, and help keep Bruins Tape to Tape rolling all year long.
Hey Bruins fans, love the pod? Well, here's an opportunity to join the team. Become a friend of the pod on Patreon and unlock more Bruins content, merch perks, and the community we've built with diehard fans like you. For just $3 a month, join Gallery of the Gods. Get ad-free episodes, sticker swag, and a discount in the merch shop. Or go full legend with the black and gold tier. Bonus content, virtual watch parties, more swag, and full access to our Substack. No matter the tier, you're in the room with us. Tap the link in the show notes and take your spot on the bench. So, as a player, we can speak to what, we have seen of him in the past.
Mm-hmm.
His coaching resume, however, is, again, by all accounts, he handled young players in the Los Angeles Kings organization very well, to the point that these young players, when brought up to the Los Angeles Kings, were experiencing a good deal of success at the NHL level. I believe that has been an underlying problem for the Boston Bruins in that, what the scouts were seeing when drafting the players, and then down in Providence, and then you bring them to the big club, it's not translating.
Yep.
Now, I've spent a little bit of time thinking about, the responsibilities and roles of a coach in general across professional sports. We focus on hockey, but to me, ultimately, it's the responsibility of the players to perform. Okay?
Right, to execute.
To execute, perform. When you're a coach at a pro level and you are tasked with the responsibility of getting the most and the best out of the players that you have been provided with, setting a lineup that gives you the best chance of winning game after game. I'm not saying you're going to win every game, but that's your job as a coach, and making appropriate adjustments when games or players are not going well. It is not, to me, at the pro level, the responsibility of the coach to try and develop a young player. That young player has certain requisite skills.
Yes.
That has brought that player to that level.
Yeah.
A coach at the pro level has so much more to do than try and cultivate and foster the growth. I think that's just my view, right? Especially at a level where the expectations for this franchise, the Boston Bruins, and the bar has always been set very, very high. Now, if that's going to change because you brought in Marco Sturm, who has had good results with growing and developing young players, then I think we all need to set our expectations a little bit low, and we also have to have a great deal of patience this season.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the biggest difference for somebody who has been an assistant coach in the past. We've probably heard the expression that when it comes to the two coaches, that it's good cop, bad cop. And so he's been the good cop for a really long time, where they've been able to develop, that kind of relationship and have that one-on-one rapport. And then when you become the coach, it's a little bit different. I think he could still bring that attitude and approach to being a head coach, but it has to be executed a little bit differently. So for me, the head coach has to have a very clear understanding of the game and the competition, clear communication with the team so that they can execute it correctly in the way that he wants it. He has to have, to some degree, buy-in from, if not the leadership core, the entire team, to believe in and support his vision so they can execute it, right? If they don't believe that that's the way that the game should be played, they're not going to be motivated to be successful at that particular system.
Correct.
So, and he can continue that developmental approach by making that an expectation of the captains or, the leadership, and saying, you gotta pay attention to these guys, or, being direct and saying to a young Patra, like, keep your head up. What are you, and then being decisive and following through, because that is another way, much like in parenting, you want to correct or adjust behavior. You're certainly going to tell them, like, hey, don't do it this way or do it this way. There are reasons why. And then if they continue not to do it, then they are held accountable for not doing it, whether or not they've done it on purpose necessarily, right? Like if Patra's not skating hard enough and well enough or whatever, let's just picking on him because he's a young guy. The coach can certainly have that one-on-one conversation and say, hey, I want you to work on X, Y, and Z. I need you to improve here, here, and here. He's being clear. He's being direct and he knows what he wants his player to do because he knows how that fits into his bigger picture of his, coaching philosophy. He has that conversation because he's the head coach. That might be the only conversation about it. And if the player then doesn't take steps to improve on that, change it, fix it, whatever, then I fully expect a coach to be like, well, then you're still not there. So I'm going to start dropping you down the lines, or I'm going to scratch you. And like, that's okay. And you want to see it. And we didn't see that last year with certain players, or we saw that once, whether or not it was warranted with Pasta, and never again. So like, I want to see consistency in that approach as well. I think those are the most important things for me, and this is a guy who, player coaches, it can be hit or miss, right? Sometimes they can be really great.
It can be really, really good or really, really bad, right?
We've seen really good ones.
Right.
No matter what you think about Rod the Bod,
right? He's arguably one of, I'm not going to call him the greatest because I still think my guy number 4 is the greatest.
Obviously.
But he was a great player.
Yeah.
As a coach, it was a disaster.
Right.
As a coach, it was a disaster.
Exactly.
So that doesn't always translate. Right. And I wonder sometimes too, me personally, if, based on what has happened with the Boston Bruins coaching tenure over the last few years, right? Have I put too much emphasis on who the guy is behind the bench?
Yeah, I don't know.
See, I don't know anymore because it's clear, the management has told us really, no, when things go wrong, we're going to get rid of the coach. Right.
Right. Yeah. Well, and sometimes it can go really, really well. I mean, like I said, as much as you love Rod the Bod, he's a great example of someone who was, at the highest level of play. Because a lot of times you'll see coaches and good coaches who maybe played 1 or 2 years in the NHL, did a stint in the AHL, but they really never got super far in the playing career.
Right. But this is a guy who hoisted a Stanley Cup or 2. right?
Right. That man's
And
an excellent coach. Like, I
yeah,
can't argue
no,
with
no,
that.
you can't argue with it. I still don't like him, but no, I'm not going to argue
Right.
with that point.
Right. So, but and to kind of give some perspective about Marco Sturm, again, when he was playing, I didn't have access to Nesson, so I didn't actually get to really watch him as closely as I would have liked. But the fact remains that, he was arguably the best German player in the NHL until Leon Draisaitl. He had he knows what he's doing. He's played at the highest level, at the
He
most elite
definitely
level,
has.
and he's a
Right,
good
right.
player at that.
No.
So
I
I
know.
think that will that's kind of like a baked in respect level there. And then coming from Boston,
But
having
let
spent
me ask
time
you
in
this.
Boston.
As a young player, right? I remember Marco Sturm because I'm on the older side, right? And watched a lot of hockey, but some of these younger players, right? They may not have a clue
Right.
who he is unless they do
that's
a little bit of homework, which, okay or not okay, right? But I think it's up to Marco to kind of foster some of that work ethic,
Mm-hmm.
right? That he had as a player and instill some of that work
Yes.
ethic, and maybe not directly, because again, they're going to have a lot of players on the roster. You can't spend countless amounts of time with every single individual player. But
Right.
if you're going to have this captain by committee,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
That's where you start your philosophical approach
Right.
to you're putting your stamp on
Mhm.
what you want the next era
Yep.
of Boston Bruins hockey to be.
Yeah.
That's when you start this is what I want our identity
Mhm.
to be. Because I think those messages have to be set out clearly
Mhm.
from day one, and that starts with training camp. That has to start with training camp. It has to go better and
Yeah.
be better
Mhm.
than what it was last season. Or
Yeah.
the first thing that we may all be looking at is you have a new coach. What the hell?
Yeah.
We're doing this again?
Yeah. Yep. Well, I tell you what, I'm going to be paying close attention to the preseason games this year out of all the years. I'm super intrigued with Sturm. The things that I've read about him online is that he does have a very direct, no gray area kind of coaching style. So that's going to be really good. And just seeing how he meshes with the team, I think the other thing that I'm also really excited about is in his coaching career, I believe it was during his time with the Kings, he coached the defense to a top 10 goals against ranking, which is huge. And it's something that, uh, for Boston Bruins as a franchise identity, exceptionally important.
Truth be told, that's likely one of the major reasons they hired him because
Yes.
and we've heard them bring up this topic, during the off season about them wanting the Bruins getting back to being hard to play against, and Marco Sturm was part of that.
Yes.
At that identity, right? Where, yes, you're a forward, and yes, your priority is getting points on the board, but you are also to some degree expected to have some defensive responsibilities as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm cautiously optimistic. I mean, I can't.
I am too. I am too. I am too. I want to be cautiously optimistic for him because what I don't want to see happen again, and I think this would make the organization just look so shitty. Not even just in the eyes of the fans, but across the league. If you dismiss another coach,
Right.
when do the two of you, and I'm talking about Sweeney and Neely, look in the mirror and say,
Is
it's
it
up.
me?
Is it?
Am I the drama?
Right.
Well, that's been our time. It goes by
And
fast.
before we close, I just want to bring up something that happened. I think it was late last week late last week, the passing of Ken Dryden, who
Last weekend, yes.
by anyone who's been a hockey fan for as long as I have, has vast amount of memories of Ken Dryden causing the Boston Bruins fits during his tenure with the Montreal Canadiens. Can I tell you, when I would sit down to watch a game and knew that he would be in the net, I'd be like, Jesus Christ, not again. Because it was just impossible.
Yes.
Nearly impossible to beat this man when he was in net. And he was the cause of agita for Bruins fans for so many years during his tenure as a Montreal Canadian.
Yep.
But it is undeniable. Ken Dryden's legacy will be causing fits for Boston Bruins fans, and just a great goaltender. Not only just he was huge in net, but he could move well for a big guy in net. So thoughts go out to his family in the hockey world.
Yeah, we definitely lost a legend there. Well, hopefully next week we'll be talking about some prospects. And then the week after that, we're going to be talking about camp. So everyone needs to make sure that they mark their calendars and they get ready for that. Any final other thoughts, comments, concerns, Maria, about this Boston Bruins team?
Oh my God. Do we really? We want to end the recording, not ramp it up. So I'm sure, folks, there will be no lack of commentary and takes and likely concerns as the season begins to develop here.
Yeah. Well, as always, make sure you like and subscribe for more content, and be sure to leave a rating and review to help other Bruins fans find us. You can support the podcast by joining our Patreon or by following us on our socials at Tape to Tape MK and on Substack at tapetotapemk.substack.com. And as always, go Bees!
Go Bees!